Welcome back to another CSS Grid series where I'm teaching you how to build a CSS Grid website. In this this final video here, I'm going to show you how to do the footer, and then we have one more video where I'm going to show you how to go through and make the site responsive to mobile using media queries in CSS. Alright, so this is our basic footer, and we just have some columns here, and these are going to be links. I don't know if I'll do 5 or not, but we'll see. And let's jump into CodePen and get it all set up. So you can see here, the last section that we did was our blog stories. And this is the full website. This is the last section that we covered with our little read more buttons and then more stories to our blog. And then down here is going to be our footer section. This is the full website here that we put together so far. And you can see here that I have a footer section. I'm actually going to call this, give it an ID of footer. Typically I only have one footer on the page that's the main footer. And so inside of that we have our structure here. So again, I'm going to put an inner kind of a footer inner inside of it. So that's what we'll call it. We'll call it footer inner. And that's going to contain all of our content so that we can center that both vertically and horizontally when we add padding. And then we also need to create this column structure. There's a couple things that we could do here. We could use Flexbox or we could use CSS Grid. Both of them are going to have their advantages. Which one to choose is just kind of up to you. I think I'm going to go with Grid because when we get down to mobile styles, it's going to be a little bit easier to control where everything is, I believe. So let's just set up a grid. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and then at least 1 row, 2 rows. So we'll have a row for these and then a row for these. So let's set it up that way. So let's do footer grid, and this will be our grid container. And then inside of each grid, we need to have a footer heading, and then we need to have a footer links. And we'll do it like that. And then we will just do p tags or an unordered list or something for our links. So we'll set it up that way because we don't want it to just necessarily auto flow everything, because when you auto flow everything and then it stacks vertically, it's gonna put everything out of the order that you want. You want this all to be together, right? So because we want that all to be together, let's do it as a group. Okay, so let's do it as a group. So we have one group here, and the group consists of a column head and links. Column head and links. So this is one group, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups that we're going to put into 5 columns. So let's do that. Let's do the footer grid, and then we'll call it, some people call it a lockup or a group is what I call it most of the time. And a group just represents a lot of different pieces of content. So that's what we're doing with the footer group. So in our footer group, we have a footer heading and we have footer links. And then for each of those links, we'll have an unordered list with a list item. So link to and so on. And then each of these needs to be it needs to be an anchor tag. Come on. There we go. So this is the way that we do anchor tags in Pug. You can do something like that. So let's just copy that. And then this will be link 2, and we'll just have 3 for each one instead of a bunch of links. Obviously, all you have to do is reproduce this for as many links as you want. Okay. So down here we have our structure of this, and then our footer heading is going to be, where are we at? So we're at H4, maybe? Yeah, looks like we're about H4 in the document for headings, so we're going to say H4, and this is going to be footer heading. Or maybe we'll call it link. We'll call it link heading. Let's save that. So we have our link heading, and then we have our links here, and we're just going to replicate that group. We're going to replicate the group 5 times, so it's there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. See, yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 across, and that's the way that we're going to do our footer. 5 represents a difficult number, but it is an odd number, but it represents a difficult number for when we do our mobile styles, because 4 we can break down into 2. 5 is not as easy to break down into an even number and make an even block. So it's a little bit more difficult, but we'll see if we can work with it. We might wind up having to just consolidate or erase one of those in the end. So we have all of our HTML set out. So that's we've covered everything, the links, the column heading, and the columns themselves. So let's get into the CSS for the footer. So remember, our footer has an ID. So we're going to say the background color is, let's just make it our dark gray, and we'll see how that works. And then that means that the color needs to be white. So it's going to style the headings, and then we also need to do the anchor links, so we'll do that in just a moment. Inside the footer we have the footer inner and the footer grid. Let's look at the footer links. And then the unordered list, we're going to say list style is none. And then that removes the dots. And then we also need to get rid of the padding. So that's also going to be 0, and it's going to move it over. So that's how you can style these to look like menu items. So that styles our footer links. I like them to have a little bit more space. So the link items are going to be have a padding. Let's say 0.5 rem on the top and bottom, and then nothing on the sides. So I think that'll be a good one. So you have in between, you have 1/2 of it. It's about what, 8 pixels on top, 8 pixels on the bottom, and 8 pixels on top, 8 pixels on the bottom. So there's 1 rem here, 1 rem here, and then 1/2 a rem on the top and bottom of all the links. So that styles all of our links. And then for the link item, the A tags, we're going to make those color white. And let's just leave the text underlined. Normally I don't like to do that, but as far as accessibility is concerned, leaving the underline on the text is actually a very good practice, especially if you're going to change the color of the links, just so people know that, hey, this is a link you can click on, and that it's accessible to all people, not just sighted people. Okay, so here's a, and sometimes even sighted people who are colorblind or something like that won't see the changes drastically enough. So you got to kind of do something to make sure that they know that that's a link that they're going to click on. What I will do is change the hover state. So in SAS, you have these nested selectors here. So this means A colon hover. And so we'll change the hover state to be a color of, we've done this before in another video. So you take the color and you do RGBA, and then you make it something like 0.7 or something. I don't know what that'll look like right offhand. That is not hovering like I want it to. There it goes. Okay. So that's a nice little kind of a light hover. You could probably get away with 0.8 as well. So just a little noticeable change. Lets you know where you are. It's a little bit more subtle. And we can even add a transition on here if we wanted to. So we transition the color at 200 milliseconds, and we do ease, which is ease in, ease out, and it just gives it a nice little animated effect as opposed to just kind of a jarring turning from one to another. Okay, so that's our footer link styles. Let's go back and let's set up our grid. That's under footer grid. And you are able to nest grids, so we have a grid here inside of the main grid of the website. And then what we do is we say display grid. And this is going to, remember, each of these groups is the child of our grid, right? So it's going to lay out the group. It's not going to lay out all these individual pieces. So what we do is grid, template, column. Nope. Where's the N? And then we're going to set up a 5-column grid. So we just do repeat, 5, and then 1 FR unit. That's fine enough for us for right now. And then we'll say grid, template rows. You could do 1 row, or you can just make it auto. Columns. So this should lay it out into 5 columns. I don't know if it's getting a live view there. And then grid gap, we'll just set to 1 rem. Should be fine. And then we need to set our footer inner. Actually, we don't need to do that. Let's do it on the footer. We'll put padding. We'll just say 2 rem on top and bottom, and on each side will be fine. And then we'll say display flex, and then we'll justify, which is centered, and align items, which is centered. That should work. We're missing something here. So maybe it's with our indentation. So this is, so that's 4. Just make sure we get these indented well. So this is one of the hazards of working with Pug. So you have to make sure that the indentation is just perfect. Okay. Let's see if that shores everything up. Yeah, it's working on there, so you can see it here, that it's working just right. But here, for some reason, it's not doing it. So let's refresh the page, maybe we'll get it that way. There it is, and that's working well. And what we're going to do is come in and style a little bit more. I feel like maybe two rem on the sides of that is a little bit too much. We already have, let's just do one. For the sides, let's just stretch it out a little bit more. And then for our footer grid, we're going to justify, I believe it's justify content. I'm going to try it first and then we'll see. Space between. Let's see if that works. I have to look it up now. There's a way for you to justify to space out all of these so that they stretch out the whole area. I thought it was justify content, maybe it's justify self. No, that's for each one. Be sure that's it. While we're waiting for that to load, we can do the link headings. So that's called footer heading, and it's an H4. So we just come in here somewhere where it makes sense. You can say footer heading, and it's good to apply these styles directly to the H4. I'm just going to say font weight of 400. I don't really like the bold very much, and we're going to bump up the size a little bit, font size of 1.2 rem, and it'll just make the heading a little bit bigger than the text, and that should be okay. Okay, we have that. Everything should be left justified here. Maybe you would want to center. If you did want to center everything, you would just take the footer group and you would apply a text align of center, and then that would actually center all of these links here inside of each group. So maybe that's a style that you're looking for there. So you just be able to kind of play with that as you wish. You can see that it's centered here. Link heading is going to be kind of a strange thing to work with, so maybe we should just change the text there. So maybe one is company links, and one is store links, and one is about us, and maybe one is for products, and one is for services. So we have several links on there. So that helps to spread it out just a little bit more. Okay, well that side did not come up well, did it? Okay, so let's look. It's either justify items or justify content. Okay, this is the one that we want, justify items. And then we can use, we can center them, stretch them, or align them to the beginning or the end. So maybe center is what we want to do for that. So if we come back, and then if we do center, I don't know if that's going to do anything, really. If we say width 100%, I don't know what that's going to do. We can get rid of this padding here, and we should see it stretch out a little bit. Okay, maybe there's a little bit more space here. So that's our product links. It's a little bit strange looking now because everything is the same. All the links are the same length and things like that. So whenever you put those in, it'll look a little bit better just because your information is differentiated. I'm not really creating different information here. But we can left align them. Maybe that helps them out a little bit to create a little bit of space. You could also give each of these footer groups. You could also give them an expressed width. So let's say we want a max width of 1,000 pixels, and then each of those groups could be a fixed width of 200 pixels, and that's going to give you a little bit more space evenly across the board. But it's also you're going to have to make those changes once you get into the media queries because they're going to be spaced out to like a max width of 1,000, which you're seeing here, because then we could say we could give the footer grid a max width of 1,000 pixels, and that's a good divisible number for our five products. And then you can even say margin of auto, and then that's going to center everything. So save that, and maybe it'll show up whenever when it reloads. It should center everything in the middle of the content section and make the width of the entire section only 1,000 pixels. So it'll kind of shrink up to that point, and then it won't go wider than 1,000 pixels. So you can see here, we come off the page a little bit, but when you get out to 1,000 pixels, it's spread out a little bit more. But that's how to deal with a footer, a very basic footer with just links in it. This would be really good for a company website, or even if you had some sort of e-commerce where you needed store links as well as company links, or if you make products, you could have some product links in there. The advantage to putting links on the home page in the footer or on every page is that you get some SEO benefits because that page has some sort of link internally to your key products or your key services or key web pages. It also obviously gives the user quick access to a lot of the internal pages without having to go through the navigation, which is very good and typically good practice if you have enough links to be able to do it. If you don't, a basic footer with copyright information would be just as well. And you could put the copyright information inside this footer inner and just remove all the grid content. That will work as well. Let's see what it looks like in the end. Okay, so in the end, you have something that's about as wide as our normal max width that we've done before, and then you just have these links down here at the bottom, this nice solid section to end the page. So you have a solid section to begin and gives you a place to anchor yourself to at the top. And then now you have a place to anchor yourself to at the bottom as well to let the user know, hey, this is a footer. This is as far as we can go. And you can make a choice after this. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't watched the other videos, go back and watch those. This is a whole series teaching you how to do some modern web development techniques like Flexbox and CSS Grid in order to create a full grid website. So this entire website is laid out with Flexbox and CSS Grid. There are no floats, there are no hacky margins and things like that. So this section here is an inside grid, and so is this. And we just did the video about this. So if you have any questions or any comments about the video, please leave them in the comment section below. For any extra information, I'll put it in the notes section. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.